obviously the thing with a Barbie movie, spoiler for end of the review here, it's really good, it's funny, go see it, a lot smarter than it needed to be. I think everyone sort of always knew that when you have Greta Gerwig co-writing and directing a movie like this with someone like Margot Robbie as your executive producer and your star. This is going to be a better thing than I think a lot of people would have expected that it would otherwise be. Obviously, this was always going to be a bigger deal than most other movies made based on licensed property, dolls, whatnot, just on the virtue of this is the rare version where they don't really need a movie to sell the product. The product is more selling the movie because this is such an iconic thing. Much like with the first of the Lego movies, it can afford to poke a little fun at itself and be more about the existence of itself in popular culture. What I'd say is most interesting about it as an entity in and of itself is that by now I think going in that almost anyone who sees these knows that most films like this, like the Lego movie, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the Barbie movie now, we've gotten used to these being quote-unquote meta in a way that they're about themselves and about the nature of reality. Almost all films of this nature have now an amount of acknowledgement that you're watching a movie about product and that's supposed to make it okay, neutralizing the amount of criticism that you're able to throw at it for being like, well, yes, we all know we're watching a commercial, so get over it and just enjoy it, and etc., etc., which sometimes is grating and tiresome and sometimes isn't if you can do something interesting with it. This one takes it almost one step further in that it's a meta movie about watching meta movies, wherein the characters are not only aware that they are in a meta situation, but that they're aware of the familiarity of familiar meta situations, where it almost takes for granted that we have seen this basic kind of story play out before, that you've probably, if you're watching especially this movie, you've seen the branded characters, toys being alive, walking around in the real world sort of thing. That if you've seen this movie in particular, you've probably seen Toy Story, Life Size, etc. And not only do you not need to be caught up on the story, that you probably think you're one step ahead of it, and that it needs to be getting ahead of that. Such as it is, the plot concerns the main characters living in this artificial Barbie doll-ish universe where they are nominally aware that they are representative figures of children's dolls in the real world, and the brand mascot nature of Barbie dolls and what they're supposed to mean in the pop culture sense for young women's representation in culture, which in that sense they think is a wholly positive thing, as traditionally represented by Mattel's self-congratulatory Barbie marketing, where we have President Barbies and CEOs and whatnot, and aren't we great for doing so? So when you have the inevitable plot of the main character undergoing an existential crisis, which of course a toy character like this is not supposed to do, and going through the traditional plot of a movie like this, or seeming to, of venturing out into the real world to resolve this conflict, we understand that coming into conflict with the real world, even before it happens, is going to be a sort of system shock, and have some sort of nominal conversation about popular culture not seeing Barbie as the greatest thing ever, and isn't that sad, and then having a back and forth about that. But instead of dwelling on that or having a congratulations one way or another, or some sort of revelation one way or another, it takes a more unusual path. It would be quite wrong to spoil exactly what is going on in this. The film basically has been advertised only by the nature of about the first third of its actual storyline, and they've done a very good job of basically not telling anyone what the second and third acts of the film are about, what the character is actually going through, who the actual villain of the movie is, basically what the conflict of the movie is actually about, which is really interesting. So I won't spoil it here, other than to say there is a different story being told here, a different discussion being had with itself by the film than I think a lot of people were prepared for, in the midst of something that is also mostly about putting an actress who was pretty much both in, obvious sense and also in talent, pretty much born for this part, on screen to do the full gamut of comedy, drama, physicality, and just really crush it. Ryan Gosling, magnificent as Ken, goes through a very similar run of stuff, gets to, sing, dance, full range of emoting through non-emotion, which is really something. Will Ferrell, Miracle Ferreira, also great in the film. Great performances. Again, There's a lot that shouldn't be spoiled about what everyone gets to do in this. But there is fascinating stuff happening here in the midst of amazing production design, amazing costume design, amazing amount of world building, but also anti-world building, where they allow you to see the setup for how all of this works, but also immediately shut down any amount of, no, we are not spending a bunch of time explaining how all of this works, and please don't ask how all of this works. You can figure it out. You've seen a movie before. Let's move on and get to the interesting parts of this. Very fun family film. It's a very fun film for older audiences, very fun film for young audiences. Even if they're not going to process a lot of the bigger stuff going on, it just looks fascinating. It's incredible to see all of the big life-size toys, production stuff all blown up. If Warner Brothers doesn't throw a theme park together out of this, they are nuts. They're just leaving money on the table. Just ingeniously sharp stuff. It very much heralds that Greta Gerwig is the real deal as a big-ticket franchise filmmaker. Great stuff. I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. Fantastic. Go see it.